Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. In this video, I'm going to share the layouts and projects I created in May and June 2025. Most of these are created with the kit I put together at the beginning of May. Here's the kit, and if you'd like a closer look, check out my kit share video. I will put a link to it below, along with links to any process videos I made using these products. So without further ado, let's get started. And the first two pages I created with Stampin' Up's Florals in Bloom collection. This is a brand new collection from the 2025-2026 annual catalog. I did this one on YouTube, so I will list and link it below. For inspiration, I used a Stampin' Up sketch, and I talk all about that in the video. I did stretch this one into a double page spread, so I will show you that. The page 2 is pretty simple, basically a vertical design. I created a row of photos. I incorporated the same paper and made one embellishment cluster that I strategically placed so that it would form a visual triangle with the two clusters on the right-hand page. Now for the embellishments, I use dies from the Florals in Bloom collection. It's called Pretty Florals. This is a stamp and die set. I just used the dies in this case. I absolutely love them. They were easy to use. They were easy to create clusters. And you're going to see throughout this layout share, I use those dies quite a bit to embellish my pages. I am changing collections. The next 6 pages I used Stampin' Up's Lovely Garden collection. This was an online exclusive release from March 2025. Now this double page spread I did create it on YouTube, so it is listed and linked below. This collection has really interesting embellishments. So in addition to the stamps and dies, there are also layering masks, and those florals that I'm pointing out right now, they are colored in with these layering masks. They were easy to use, and I did do a demonstration in that video. The next 2 pages, again, from this Lovely Garden collection, I am using principally the same colors, though the pages do look different because I'm using them in different quantities, and obviously the page design is different. I am showing you that on the left, I incorporated a flip flap, or I plan to incorporate a flip flap. That's basically an adhesive pocket to add extra photos and or journaling. I did one photo and journaling on the inside. Mine's temporary right now because I plan to adhere it on top of my page protector and not directly on my page. I did do 2 more pages with this Lovely Garden collection. You're going to see the color changes a bit. A lot of greens here, yellows and pinks. I did change up the colors of the flowers, though I still used the same stamps, dies, and masks. I did create a coordinating page, a simple 4-block grid. I am going to bring out a stamp and die set. It's called the Everyday You and Me stamp and die set, and I used the stamps to create my title. I'm showing that to you there. I'm going to bring this out several times throughout the layout chair. I'm sorry about that. It's simply because I use it all the time, and I'm kind of excited about it because I didn't particularly like that stamp and die set when I first bought it, but I find it so incredibly useful. It's basically the first stamp and die set that Stampin' Up brought out intended for scrapbooking. So the sentiments are larger and they are intended for titles. As you can see, I've changed collections. So now I'm showing you what I created with Beautiful Gallery, another brand new collection from the 2025-2026 Stampin' Up annual catalog. This one is actually a 6x6 paper pack. So obviously I brought in some 12x12 papers, but all the pattern paper is from a 6x6 paper pack. I showed you I used one of those flip flaps again on this page, again, temporarily placed because I will be adding it on top of a page protector. I'm also pointing out those arches there. When I put my kit together at the beginning of May, I put in this die set. It's called Everyday Arches. They're basically nesting arch dies, and they have stitched edges. So you can see on the right, I have 3 large ones, and on the left, all of those half circles, they are bunch of smaller ones there. I also used that very same Pretty Florals die set that I mentioned earlier. Again, I use that a lot. I find it very easy to create clusters with those die cuts. Now I'm going to show you 2 more pages that I created with this beautiful gallery collection. This one, I did it on YouTube, so the video is listed and linked below. You can see that mat across the middle. That's basically those 6x6 papers that I cut into strips and kind of created my own pattern with it. This is a really interesting 6x6 paper pack. I ended up using the entire thing. You're going to see I did 8 pages with it, and I also created 12 cards with it. I'm showing you just the embellishment clusters. Again, this video is listed and linked below, and you're going to see the next 2 pages are the very same page design. They do look a bit different because the color slant is kind of more on the greens and beiges, but there is a little bit of black there as well, and I did change up the embellishing. Now I'm pointing out those flowers there because I'm going to bring out that Stampin' Die set again, the one that I used for a lot of the titles. There's also these little roses there and die, so that's what I used to embellish these pages. There's also little globes there. That's a really old die set from Stampin' Up! The last 2 pages I created with the beautiful gallery collection have more of an outdoorsy vibe because of the colors. I thought it lent well to that. A lot of these papers as well have these scenery painting images on it. So I used one of those. You can see it on the far right. Basically what I did there was I created a mat with the 6x6 papers, put my photos on top, added some die cuts, and that was it. Pretty simple page. For the coordinating page, I simply filled it up with photos. I added a title on top of one of the photos. On that tag, there is the date, and I also incorporated some of those die cut trees. The die cut trees, by the way, are from Tim Holtz. There was a mountain range on the right-hand page. That was a Stampin' Up! Stamp and die set. What I'm showing you right now are 12 cards I created with the beautiful gallery collection. Some of these papers were just way too beautiful to cut up and hide with photos, especially that one with the vases and the roses. I'm not much of a card maker. These are really, really simple. Basically, I took the papers, put them on a card front, and added a sentiment. That's pretty much it. For some of them, you can see I created a die cut frame and I kind of put it around the beautiful image that was there, and that was it. And a lot of that inspiration came directly out of the Stampin' Up! Catalog. Not identical, but definitely my jumping off point. Now I am changing collections. This is called Latte Love. It's a retired collection from Stampin' Up! I only ended up making 2 pages, these 2 pages with that collection, so I still have quite a bit of it left. I pointed out those arches over there on the right. Once again, I made arch rings with those everyday arch dies, and inside of those rings, that's where I added my journaling. Now I'm going to change collections again, and the next one is called On the Go. It's a Stampin' Up! Collection. It was an online exclusive release in March 2025. It is a travel-themed collection. This one, I loved it when I first saw it. The colors were fun and bright. I loved the stamps and dies, which I still do. However, I did find the paper quite challenging to use, and I do believe it was because of the color scheme. I ended up being able to use it by bringing in black and white cardstock. That just made it more usable for me. This is kind of a single page that I created, then I stretched it into a double page spread. Both of these could work easily as single page layouts. The next 2 pages are created as a double page spread, but it's not a travel theme. You're going to see it in a minute. It is a St. Patrick's Day parade story. I thought with those bright greens, it just worked perfectly for St. Patrick's Day. And that green paper, the large part of it in the border, it's almost like a tone-on-tone city map. So for me, that kind of lent well to a parade. I did want to add a bit of a St. Patrick's Day slant to it, so I dug into my tools and I did stamp some shamrocks on those white circles, and I did have a shamrock die as well. So I had that green paper from this collection, but then I brought in a bit of shamrocks, and it perfectly works well for a St. Patrick's Day parade, or at least I think it does anyway. Here are the last two pages I created with this On the Go collection. And again, you can see I brought in white and black cardstock. I did a lot of fussy cutting for this one because this collection had a lot of travel tags, suitcases, and other travel type icons that were really easy to fussy cut. So I utilized that to create my embellishment clusters. And you can see I created a grid, and basically I used a simple stories template for that. There was one template that I basically used 3 times. One template had 1 large square and 4 small squares. Now I'm changing collections. Actually, the next 8 pages I'm going to share with you were all from leftovers from my kits that I put together towards the beginning of the year through January to the end of March. These 2 pages I used Stampin' Up's Floral Delight Suite. So I don't have much of this collection left, but I just had a few papers and it was very, very pretty. I'm pointing out the dies from this collection. That's how I created those flowers. And those little reindeer, I created them with a retired Christmas stamp set called Reindeer Fun from Stampin' Up. Now I'm going to show you 2 more pages, again from a Stampin' Up collection, from the collection called Everyday You and Me. This was an online release in January 2025. For this one as well, you can see I used that stamp and die set that I used so often throughout these pages. I often use it for the titles, but for this one, I created those roses, and this time I did it in blue. Here is the coordinating page. Again, pretty simple. I added 2 photos to complement the other 2. Everything's covered up because there's way too many people in those photos. And I also created some of those flowers from that stamp set as well. There's also stickers there as well. This collection, the Everyday You and Me collection, had stickers with it. These 2 pages I created with a page kit that I put together on YouTube in early March, I think. A lot of this is Simple Stories and Echo Park paper. And you can see I created a quilt design. And if you look at those florals, I used that very same die set that I just showed you a moment ago to create those little roses, this time in pink. There is the complimentary page, and you can see it's pretty simple and basically a wide border. I grouped together 3 photos, created 1 cluster. And for the title on that one, I used that very same stamp set that I just showed you. So this title there is Better Together. Anyway, I really do like that stamp set. I keep saying it, but it's absolutely true, and I surprised myself with that. Here are the last 2 pages. These are from a really old paper pack from Stampin' Up called World of Good. It was an old travel collection that was super, super beautiful. Now, for the embellishment on these 2 pages, I used a lot of dies. Those globes are from Elizabeth Craft Designs, and the airplanes and suitcases are from Tim Holtz, and all of the paper is from Stampin' Up. So this is kind of a mishmash, but I really like how this one came together. So basically that is it. I'm going to go through all of these layouts again just so that you can get a second look. I hope you enjoyed this layout share. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, Scrapbooking Quebec, I would be honored and thrilled if you did. And if you are a subscriber, thank you very, very much. Have a great day, and I'll be back on YouTube tomorrow with my July and August kit. See you then. Bye-bye.